Hello, welcome once again, everyone. We were discussing about inflation in our earlier videos. So, again, in this video, in this lecture, we will also discuss about inflation only. Today, in this lecture, we will discuss about what causes inflation. In the last video, if we have seen, then we have discussed what inflation is and what are the measurements of inflation in India, how the inflation is measured. Like we have talked about PPI, we have talked about WPI, and also we have talked about the consumer price index, that is CPI. Now, what basically causes inflation? So, if you see, inflation is caused generally for two reasons. One is known as the cost push, another one is known as demand pull. So what does this cost push inflation mean? Okay, cost push means कि suppose this is the final product. This is the final product. To make the final product, some factors of production is needed. Some factors of production is needed. Now, what are the factors of production? It is the land, it is the labor, and it is the capital. Land, labor, capital, and also this another thing, and entrepreneurship. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship are the basic factor of production. So, when the cost of the factor of production increases, say for example rent, wherever the final product is produced, the rent of that building, the rent of that plot has increased, or the labor charge, that is salary or wages charged by the labor, has been increased. Okay, then that will ultimately impact the price of the product. Okay, due to the price of these factors of production. Say for example, say raw material. If the price of the raw material is increased, then it will also it will also impact the price of the final product. All right. So if the raw material, if the labor cost, if the uh, rent increases, that will eventually make the final product costlier. That type of inflation or that type of price rise is known as cost push inflation. And there is another type of inflation that is known as demand pull inflation. Okay. Now, to understand this demand pull inflation, we have to see what is actually a demand. We have to see what is actually a demand is. Demand, by the definition of demand, we say it कि demand is the willingness to buy a product at prevailing prices backed by purchasing power. That means if you want something, that is not that wanting something, the willingness to buy is not demand, but that must also satisfy two more determinants. That is, first one is the your willingness, second one is you want to purchase that at the prevailing market price, and the third one should be backed by purchasing power. So if you need something, that means that is your willingness to buy. Willingness to buy. That willingness to buy should be at prevailing prices. That means price of the product available at market currently. And third is backed by purchasing power. If you want something at prevailing prices, do you have the capacity to purchase? Do you have that much amount of money to purchase? If the three things satisfies for the product, then we can say there is demand. Okay. Now, if in the market the demand for something rises, then the price of the product also rises. All right. It's anything, say vegetable, fruits, clothes, real estate, buildings, anything, any kind of services. If the demand keeps on increasing, if people need more of it, then eventually what happens, price of that goods, that good or service, it increase. Okay, so that type of inflation is known as demand pull inflation. When demand for goods increases and exceeds production capacity. Okay, how much the production there is. Suppose the production capacity is 100 unit. Any product, it can only be produced up to 100 unit for a particular period of time. And if the demand, it exceeds 100, say it becomes 110 unit, then what will happen? The price of the 100 unit will increase. That type of inflation is known as demand pull inflation. Now, we can also look how and why demand increases. What are the reasons that demand may increase? Reasons for increase in demand. The first and the most important reason is your income. Simple. If your income increases, if your income increases, then the demand for good will also increase. If your salary has increased from the last month, then that is very much natural instinct of human being that you will ask for more goods, because due to money you need not to compromise now. Earlier you had less money, you compromised, you purchased less goods, or you purchased inferior goods. You purchase inferior goods, I mean that there are more better quality goods, okay, better priced or more priced goods, but due to the financial insufficiency you purchased inferior goods. But if now you have more money, you won't go for inferior goods, rather you will purchase more or more costly goods. That increases the demand in the market, and if demand increases in the market, then there will be demand pull inflation. So in long run, if you see, the inflation that take place in the market is due to the rise in demand, and demand rises, and many neoclassical economists, they say that due to the rise in income, it increases demand, and that eventually to inflation. Okay. Now, some of the economists say, particularly the monetarists, what do they do? The monetarists, they said this cost push inflation is secondary. The thing we called cost push inflation is secondary. The primary thing is a demand pull inflation, because in cost push inflation we have seen the rise in price of raw material, it increases the price of the final product. So let me take one example. Say for example milk. If milk is a raw material, then paneer is a final good. Now, cost push inflation is saying that due to the rise in price of milk, the price of paneer increases. Okay, but the monetarists will say due to the increased demand of paneer, due to the increased demand of paneer, which actually also meant the increased demand for milk also. People need more paneer, that means more milk also needed to make more paneer. Hence, there is a more demand for milk also. There is more demand for milk also, and hence the price of the milk rises and paneer also become costlier. That means what? This is also a demand pull inflation rather than cost push inflation. So for this set of economists who are known as monetarists, they say money supply is primary. If you have more income, you will more demand more, and prices of goods and services will rise. So that is the concept of cost push inflation and demand pull inflation. Okay, we will bring you more lectures on inflation and other economic topics. So stay tuned. Thank you.